Hi mateys, well, we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. We're going to go over some of the supplies that I carry on board for fix-up and repairs and some of the basic things that I think you're going to need. Now, this does not cover emergency parts and backup supplies. We're going to do that in another video. Now this is a lot of stuff, a lot of small stuff. It looks like a lot. Well, I put together a little cheat sheet for you that you can download either in a Excel format or a PDF. You know, and I may miss a few things here and there, but you know, I'll try to add them onto this list as we go. So let's start out with some general type of things. You know, WD-40, some disposable gloves, duct tape. You can't have a boat without duct tape. A caulking. Now this type of caulking here, this does not, well, it cures, but it doesn't harden, so it almost forms like a gasket. It's also mildew resistant, moisture resistant, you know, so when you caulk things, it has, you know, boats are going to flex. So it has a little flexibility, but it's going to seal well. This is good for sealing around portholes and rebedding screws, that type of thing. And you know, I kind of broke this down like we did with the tools into different segments. Now I thought fiberglass work and woodworking are somewhat similar in some of the things that you're going to need. Fiberglass though really requires the most. You know, to make sure I got things right, I talked to Gary over at the owner of Osprey Marine Composites at Harrington Harbor North. Now I made a few notes because after talking with Gary I realized we're going to need another video just on this fiberglass stuff. But to start with, a couple of his recommendations were, of course, you know, you got to have epoxy, which is the resin and the hardener. Now he recommends 2 hardeners. Now I carry the medium cure, and I use the Seahawk epoxies here, and this is a lot. Gary recommends maybe carrying like a quart or a pint of this stuff, but I'm doing a lot of work, so I have the gallon of resin and the half gallon of the catalyst, the hardener, you know, and this is 1 pump resin, 1 pump hardener. Anyway, so carry the 2 hardeners, the medium and the fast. Now the medium is for the bigger projects and the fast is for the smaller projects where you just need a small amount, you can get it done quickly. I went with the medium just because I'm not fast at this stuff. So anyway, that's one of the things he recommends. Also, these chemicals, these compounds shouldn't be kept on the boat during the winter unless you're going to be on the boat. You know, in other words, they really shouldn't get real cold or freeze. Then I also carry a couple of different fairing compounds. I use a regular fairing compound and then a, well, which one is which here? Let me see. Oh, this is the structural. This is really strong stuff. And then I carry a regular one, and then I carry a third, which is, well, you can't really see it, but it's brown. Well, yeah, there you go. It's brown. This is for wood. And because I have a white, most of the boat is white, I carry a white pigment along with me on this. And then for cleaning everything, you can either use denatured alcohol, which I kind of like because it's non-toxic. Gary recommends, you know, you can use the acetone or a fiberglass cleaner. And again, this is where we're going to need another class on this because certain resins work with different cleaners and different cleaners will work. But in general, this is the basic stuff here. You can also use a lacquer thinner to help clean the surface before you start applying your epoxy. The problem with the alcohol and the acetone, if you don't have them sealed tight, they are going to evaporate on you. And then another thing that I don't have, but Gary recommends, is this 3M high strength putty. Now I've used that stuff. You only got a couple of minutes to work with it. You just need a little bit of it. But you got to work fast with it. Now, over at Osprey, they make their own putty. I mean, they have high-tech kind of guys, and you know, the chemical brain that can put this stuff together. And they make their own putties based on what the project is, which is really nice. And that's available to the slip holders and those that are dry docked at Harrington Harbor North and South. You know, Gary's willing to work with anybody on this stuff. He is, you know, for the Harrington Harbor slip holders, can't open it up to the whole world. I mean, they got enough right there at Harrington Harbor. You know, so if you need a little bit of advice, Osprey, they're open to working with you and helping you get things done right. Another thing that they recommend is, all right, on your matting, different types of matting. This is called a tape, although it's a woven fiberglass. This is nice for tight areas. Gary recommend carrying, let's see, what was it? It's a 1080 chop mat, and I happen to have that. And you see, it's kind of like omnidirectional, and that's got a lot of strength to it. Also, carry a woven mat. Now this is a thinner one that I have, but because of some of the project work I'm doing, I also have this heavier matting. I mean, I could almost build a hull with this stuff. Alright, so that's kind of the information I got from Gary on what you need to carry and how to handle some of this stuff. Like I said, we got to go back and get more information. Some other things, of course, you're going to need plenty of mixing cups and a plastic stir stick, which I'm out of right now. Brushes for applying the epoxy, you know, and there's the standard ones, and for smaller jobs. For smoothing things out, you have these little putty knives that you can, you know, use with the fairing compound. You make that nice and thick. You need to spread that thin. These are the kind of things you'll need for that. Of course, safety goggles. Oh yeah, and Gary recommended a wide variety of sanding pads, sanding boards, sanding discs. You know, everything from a 60 grit to a 200, and you know, various sanders. Now, of course, on your boat, you're not gonna, and I don't have a lot of sand. I got one sander, or no, two sanders. But hand sanding makes a lot of sense on a lot of this stuff. So I've got a lot of different sanding pads. I've got a bodysuit, you know, it's a disposable one. This really comes in handy for bottom painting in particular. But if you got a lot of sanding to do, you may want to consider something like this. Okay, now on the painting side of things, and again, we're going to need to talk to a couple of the experts on this, because this whole varnish and teak work is chemically just beyond my mind. But I have I carry a wood sealer, and then just a basic varnish. But I also carry Kills. This is a nice latex paint, you know, like in different cubby holes and down on the deck, or inside compartments. You know, I use this. For example, on the headline where I had to take the headliner out. Well, I painted that whole top with this first, and then when I put the new headliner in, I don't need to worry about condensation, molding up on me, that type of thing. So that's pretty nice there. Steel wool. No. Throw that out, because it's steel, it's going to rust, and it's going to leave rust marks on things. So don't use steel wool. If you have to use something that fine, there's other products out there that'll work. You know, the sanding pads, 3M has got some nice smooth pads that you can use for that. Don't use steel wool. Let's see what else we got on the painting, of course on the painting side of things too, you're going to need a variety of sandpapers, painter's tape, a cleaner. Again, you want to clean that surface before you start applying your paints to it. Oh, very important here. Just a second, let me find this. For the varnishes, you don't want to take your paintbrush, dip it into this can, start painting, and dip it back in again. You don't want to contaminate the varnish. And even leaving it open can get dust and dirt in it, so I recommend carrying some of these funnels where you can strain your varnish. Again, have plenty of these very expensive paint containers and epoxy mixers, you know, where you can put this in here, strain a little bit of varnish into it, do your work, strain a little bit more. You're going to have a much nicer finish. Okay, while I was setting up to do the rest of this stuff, I found a couple other things that I forgot to mention in the general stuff. For example, miscellaneous bolts and nuts and screws. Now these should all be stainless steel. Utility knife blades, canvas repair snaps, pair of work gloves, some string. Now this is really important too with the electrical. And you know, this is not the end all and be all of all the supplies. I'm hoping this is just the beginning of a conversation with all of us about some of the supplies that you carry on board to help all of us out figure out what else we might need. Alright, well now let's take a look at the plumbing first. That's a short list. You know, miscellaneous hose clamps. I carry quite a few of those. Some Teflon tape. Some stretch plumber's tape, you know, to help seal something up for a short period of time. Also, the epoxy mix. This is a two-part. You know, you just rip a little bit off, knead it together, and you can put it around a pipe. This is not a permanent fix. This is, you know, a quick repair. Miscellaneous washers, rubber washers, and some gasket rope. This is nice because you may not have the right size gasket for something. Well, you can lay this in there, get it to whatever size you need. Again, it's not a permanent repair, but we're talking about repairs and upgrades. This is a repair until you can get to the upgrade on it. Then on the electrical side of things, that's a little bit more. Wire straps. You can't get enough of these on board. I don't care what you think. There's never enough, and there's never enough sizes. So plenty of these. Now I do a lot of soldering of the wires. You know, let's see, I gotta get a little more solder. But solder. But there are times when crimping is quicker and it can be just as effective. So I carry a variety of different size crimpers. Now these also have, when you heat them up, they're going to shrink. And I have eye connectors too. I like the eye connectors rather than the fork connectors for my AC and DC panels. They just hold a lot tighter. And then of course a wide variety of shrink tubing, because if I'm going to solder something, then I'm going to shrink tube it, then I'm going to put a bigger shrink tube over the two wires together. You know, again, the crimpers, and they're the ones that you heat them up and they're going to shrink around there. I still shrink wrap these too. Black electrical tape, and then I recommend several different colors of tape. Like I've got green, white, red, I had yellow. You might not have the right color wire to run something, so at each end you can color it, or somewhere in between, candy stripe it. And I never throw wires out unless they're really bad. So I have a variety of different wires. Now I normally carry a couple of spools of 50-foot wire, 16 and 18 gauge, but again, you got to make sure that it's marine grade, it's strand, and it's tinned. I have several of these inline fuse holders for different size fuses. Anyway, you know how they work. So I carry several of these when I'm putting in appliances or electronics and I want an extra protection in there. This is killing me. I got to figure this out. Oh, this one screws in. Okay. Whoops. Had a fuse in it. Alright. Some of them just snap in. This one screws in. Glad we figured that out. Again, the string is handy. You know, in the tools we showed we had a wire snake. Well, sometimes it's advisable, put a piece of string on that too, run a couple pieces. If you need to pull new wire through something, run it once, have it ready 2 or 3 times. And according to my list, which is not 100% complete because, as I mentioned, we need your help to fill this in a little bit more. You know, just let me know what you want added to this. Alright, that pretty much covers the basic supplies. Now in the next video we do, which probably won't be for another several weeks, we're going to cover some emergency supplies and some spare parts. Now of course every boat's going to require a little bit different type of product list, but the basics are going to be the same. So until next time, happy and safe boating to you, your family, and friends.